See if there's a meeting. Says, yeah, there is, Joe.
All right, are we ready to start a meeting?
Yes.
Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We'll call the Finance and Personnel 2 Committee to order. Today's date is October 28th, 2020. The time is 5:31 p.m. Notice has been duly posted at City Hall. Roll call. We'll start with myself. Dan Stevens is present. Alderman Jim Olson.
He is absent at the current time, but
Mr.
I will
Olson,
let you know when he comes in.
Mr. Olson is present online.
Oh, he is.
Okay, so
You're muted.
Jim Olson is present. Alder Diane Wolf.
Present.
And then we have other alders here since it's FNP2. Alder Tom Smith.
Present.
Alder Steve Knott.
Present.
Right. Also joining us online, we have Mayor Kim Smith. There are several other department heads and city attorney and city administrator. Let's move on to item number 2, approval of minutes from the previous meeting.
Diane moves to approve.
I hear a motion to approve. Is that motion? I will second the motion. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Item 3, public input. Public input will be limited to 3 minutes. Is there anybody wishing to provide public input for this FNP2 meeting? Second call. Amanda, I assume that there's nobody in the queue? All right, third and final call for public input. Hearing no public input is now closed. Consideration and possible action on the following items. Under item 4, the 2021 proposed executive budget, including budgets for general fund, special revenue funds, debt service funds, enterprise funds, capital project funds, community development authority funds, and tax incremental district number 5. How shall we commence? Eric, do you want to maybe give us a synopsis of what we need to accomplish today?
Yes, I'll be very brief. So in the binders before you is the proposed budgets for the funds that Chair Stevens just listed. The issue at hand tonight is for this committee with input from the full council members to ask questions, engage staff as necessary, make any motions that you would like to make amendments at this point in time, and really work through the budgets so it becomes what is currently the administrator proposed budget based on what I read is as council goals to the council budget for review for the public hearing that were scheduled November, and the dates escaping me, I apologize. So tonight and tomorrow, these are working sessions. This is why it's vital to get input from even non-committee members to ask the questions, have their say, keeping in mind that only the 3 alders, Alder Olson, Alder Stevens, and Alder Wolf have to say tonight. For the recommendation, but ultimately the council will make the recommendations. So it can be a long meeting, it can be a short meeting. It all depends on the input that the council wishes to make at this point in time to make this budget their own. As I had read into the record at council meeting on October 9th, and I won't reread the entire letter again. But proposed to you is a balanced budget as required. It meets the expenditure restraint and the levy limit restrictions the state imposes on the city. All in all, it provides a very slight decrease in the mill rate for you and accomplishes the long-term goals that the council has gone on record stating they would like to accomplish. So with that brief introduction, I open up for questions and discussions.
All right. And just a quick recap to make sure everybody's clear. Normally F&P would presently be myself, Alder Olson, and Alder Wolf. But for discussion purposes, Alder Knott and Alder Smith are free to partake regularly. They just won't be able to vote on this until it goes to the full council. So, all right. So what is the will of the committee? Is there anybody that wishes to speak on any particular item?
I would suggest that we start at the beginning. I know how we've done it the last few years where we just started at the very beginning of the budget book and we just went section by section. And then if anyone had any questions, concerns, we could stop. And I know there will be certain tabs that I personally have already asked Fred, our finance director, if he would kind of give us a quick synopsis of that section, and he's agreed to do that. And I know Fred just raised his hand.
Yes, if it's all right with the committee, it might not be a bad idea to start off with common council. And then when we're done, then we can go to the back to the front to summarize what the entire book contains.
All
Dan,
right. Chair recognizes Fred Bueller, finance director, and we're going to jump to the common council budget. So Fred, did you have input?
I'm good.
Dan,
Jim Olson.
yeah, could you, is there a way for you to turn the volume up a little bit so that I could hear you, your voice is better?
My volume is up to max, which that's the best I'm going to do. I would be comfortable relinquishing if it sound were better if somebody else wanted to run the meeting. So
I can hear you okay, Dan.
you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
All right.
So it would be people in this room, Alder Olson.
Yeah, that's fine. I can hear you fine, Eric. Great,
Okay.
thank you.
Again, just a reminder for everybody in this room, my mouth is basically on the microphone because of the mask. So when you do speak, for anybody online, you have to be directly into the microphone and right to it.
Okay, thank you.
So did I hear, were we were looking at the common council? Is that what we're looking at, that tab first? Is that what you said, Fred? Okay, and so I did have something to bring up on that page.
Okay, Alder Wolf, you recognized?
Oh, you are nice and loud now. Thank you. That is so much better than what we've been dealing with. Thank you. So on the Common Council tab, it would be, so there's page 1, and then if you turn page 1, it is on your left-hand side under, it's the top of the page, the personnel justification. Just make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah,
Except I don't like that sound. I followed up with Eric on this, and I just want, it's just more of a kind of a housekeeping thing. At the very bottom of the page, under comments/notes, the very last sentence, it says annual salaries, this has to do with Common Council, annual salaries subject to CPI. And what that really is, it's subject to COLA, not a CPI. So I would ask that that be changed. And I don't know.
Okay,
if
I
we
don't see
really
any
need
issue with that. Is there, what's the will of the commit, what's the will of the common council?
Is that, Eric, is that something that we need to actually have a motion on? Because it's really more of a budget sheet versus,
That's just a cosmetic.
yeah,
It's
it's more of a
Di-
cosmetic.
Diane,
Yes, sir.
do
Go ahead,
you
Jim.
want that removed?
No, I'm just, it's more of a cosmetic issue. It really is annual salaries are subject to a COLA, not the CPI. And my reasoning behind that is,
Okay.
my reasoning
Okay.
behind that is that if it's CPI, then it's an automatic increase every year, CPI.
Yeah,
But if it's a COLA, my understanding is, because I've gone back to the minutes of the meeting of let me just pull it here. It was the minutes of July 2020 Common Council. The intent was that Common Council salaries would increase on an annual basis, dependent on what the COLA was received by non-union employees. And so if a COLA is not received by non-COLA employees, then Common Council members also would not receive anything. But if, as it's written right now, it's showing a CPI, and we would. So it's just kind of clearing up the intent. So it just really
Okay.
should say annual salary subject to COLA, not CPI. So I don't, from what Fred is telling me, it's really more of a housekeeping thing. We really don't need a motion.
okay,
Okay, so it sounds like we're all in agreement that the intention of the ordinance was that this would be based off of a COLA, not CPI. So this is just a corrective measure. Is that
Yes,
agree.
correct.
everyone agreed?
Yes,
Okay, so we don't need a motion on that. They'll just be cleaned up.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other notions or concerns on the Common Council section?
Nope.
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 All right, we'll consider that part done.
And Fred, did you say you wanted to start in the back or something, or did you, what did
Start
you,
Right here,
I'm sorry?
start right here.
Oh, start right here, okay.
I can't see what you're pointing to, Fred.
The next tab is municipal court.
Oh, then, okay, then, so Dan, go from Common Council, then right on to Municipal Court. Except mine is not next, mine is Police and Fire.
Yeah, so is mine.
Mine's police and fire also.
Okay,
All right,
okay.
so let's just, if this is the way the books are, let's just do police and fire now. And then
Okay,
we'll just start working like a Roman, going from straight lines all the way through. All right. What is the will of the committee? Does anybody have any concerns regarding this is the Police and Fire Commission tab, by the way, not the police
yeah,
department.
not for me.
And
So
I
this
don't-
is just, it's a very small amount.
Now, Dan,
All right, Are we good with that? Anybody have any comments on this section?
Dan, can you see us?
Not, not really.
Okay, so
Well,
I'm
let me see if I
wondering,
change the view.
so Dan, would it help that, like, when you ask for like a tab, is there anything else? Would it help if I were to survey the two other council members in the room, and if I don't see them raise their hands, or it looks like they're fine, then maybe I just respond, we're good, and then we just move on to kind of help move the process?
That'd be fine if you want to be the conduit for that. Otherwise, you won't hurt my feelings if,
Okay,
let's assume I can't see you. I can see Jim. The council chamber, everybody is very small, so you're just a few millimeters. So if you make a hand motion, I can't see.
okay,
Feel free to just shout out, and
good.
that's
Yeah,
just how
I'll-
we're gonna have to operate today.
Okay, so I don't see anything from council for this tab. We're good.
All right, so the next tab is going to be legal.
Municipal court, isn't it?
No, municipal court.
Municipal court.
Is there, is
I
it
believe it's municipal court.
municipal court, right?
Let's see.
That's what I have. Then attorney.
Our books must be arranged differently. We can go to municipal court.
Is this after police and fire? Because I have city attorney.
No,
Police Fire commission, you have,
After police and fire, I have city attorney.
okay.
no, we have.
We can do
municipal
whatever
court.
one you want. I don't,
Either
I have
one.
municipal
Well,
court.
how about, what if
We'll
we
find
go
it.
with what Dan has since he's running the meeting?
Okay,
We'll find it, yep.
So Dan, what is your tab?
Okay, so my next tab is, this is legal or city attorney.
Yep.
Okay,
that's what I have.
City attorney.
Maybe we'll make a mental note for next year. That we'll just make sure we'll do like a little index, so all our tabs are arranged the same way.
Let's see, city attorney. We're good here, I think.
All right,
Okay.
and we do have the paralegal position in here where there is money budgeted, but that will be for later in 2021. Is that correct?
Alder Stevens,
Yes?
I can answer that.
Go
If you look at-
Eric, go ahead, please.
If you look at the second line, line 120, that's wages regular. You can see in 2020, that was budgeted for 40,376. Then go down to line 124, that's wages permanent part-time. Scroll over to 2021 admin budget, that's 19,184. You can see that decrease from 40,376 to 19,184 for part-time. That is part-time position budgeted for the entire year.
Okay. So that potentially could start January 1st then.
Correct.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions regarding the city attorney budget?
But we're good.
All right. My next tab is the city administrator.
Looks like we're good.
Jim, Diane, Tom, Steve, all good?
Yep, good.
We're good.
We're good.
And in case I speak too soon, on behalf of you two gentlemen, please say, oh, and just raise your hand or whatever you need to do. Please interrupt.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no decorum. Don't worry. Just shout out. It's more important that you're heard. My next budget is the mayor's budget.
Same here.
Any questions on the mayor's budget?
No,
I'm hearing no.
Nope, we're good.
I had a seminar on the mayor's budget for Cancun. I don't know if you guys were aware of that. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Heard it was going to be nice, but it was shut down due to COVID. So it's
Yeah.
terrible.
Where are you going next, Dan?
All right. Next tab is finance department.
I've got clerk's office, so. Let's see.
Clerks is after finance in my book.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we've had some recent there's some shake up here. Is this reflects the current budget as projected? Fred, there are no changes to your department from the book that we're looking at?
Well, it depends on what you call changes. The APAR purchasing is a new position of which the deputy finance director / treasurer position has been removed.
And I personally will go on record. I think this is something that APAR purchasing clerk has been sorely in need of, the city has sorely been in need of for a number of years. And I think this would be an excellent addition to City Hall and how we do business. So this is something that I will wholeheartedly be supporting going forward.
Right. Anybody else have any feedback on the finance department? Make good time. Now, Jim, we'll go to the clerk's department.
Say that again, Dan?
The clerk's department is next.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure where you're getting the Parks Department.
Clerk.
Clerks.
Clerk,
It does-
Clerk's office.
It does sound like
Like
parks.
parks,
It
didn't it?
does. It
Okay.
does. It did for me too.
Where's the first?
We're not there yet, Fred.
No time.
so yes, clerk, Charlie Lama, Echo Roger, Kilo.
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 Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay. Agree.
Next in mine is elections.
Same here.
Should have a later election year in 2021.
Yep, we're good.
Good.
Right. The next
And-
tab is auditors.
And,
Oh.
yeah, I'm sorry, I'm assuming that the difference in, what I'm seeing is a difference, if I'm interpreting that right, in postage with the decrease, that's because of the increase of the postage for this year with the COVID, is that what that is?
When you have more election.
Oh, it's numbers of elections, okay, that's right, because we have the special in November, I got it, okay. All right. What's
Okay, we're good.
Okay, so we're good on audit.
Yes.
Okay, the next tab I have is personnel.
Would that be the same as human resources? No.
Yes.
Yes,
Um,
I have human resources
Yes.
too.
Human
Good.
resources.
Yes, human resources personnel.
Okay.
Not hearing any issues.
No.
We're good.
Right, my next tab is assessor.
Oh, could we back up for one quick second? I have a question I forgot to ask Eric yesterday. Just a second.
Okay, we're back in personnel.
Yes. So Eric, my question under human resources, it'll be the personnel justification page under the comments notes. I don't know if this is a Fred, Hope, or Eric question, but when it talks about under other compensation, this is on all the pages. When it talks about $5,000 in wages was added for the compensation study data, which will then include FICA, Med, and WRS in the totals. Does that mean the $5,000 will be all encompassing of all those items? Or will the $5,000 be separate from the FICA, Med, and WRS? I wasn't sure how that was written, what that meant.
No, it'll be all inclusive.
All inclusive.
When we do roll out the plan for implementing the results of the wage study, we're cognizant that it's beyond just wages. We also have all the other costs as well that you need to fund. So
Then when you have 5,000 here, whatever, when it totals the whatever set amount, that'll cover, it'll be all encompassing and cover everything.
correct.
Got you. Thank you.
And so I'm clear, that's not like a set amount, that dollar amount pens the results of the compensation study. Is that correct?
Correct. So there are lines in each department for the other compensation. What that does is a way for each department to fund the pot of money. It does not necessarily signify that department will receive that amount of money.
That department and/or those specific people, it's for
Correct.
that department is funding that,
Correct.
to that amount, yeah.
All
think we're
right.
good.
Diane, any other questions on HR?
No, I'm good. I'm done. Thank you. And I think we're good here also.
All right, I am now into the assessors section.
And Fred?
I just wanted to add here is when I went out for bids here this past year in 2019, is we have 6 flat years. the rate will be exactly the same, and then we do the reval in 2020, I'm sorry. That's a 2024, I'm sorry. Then the cost will be rising an additional
Bless you.
funds to cover the revaluation.
Thank you, Fred.
Thanks, Fred.
All right. Nothing from the alders?
Nope.
Nope, we're good.
All right. IT. We've had some moving parts with IT here. The now, MCS is not part of this budget, right? Or is that?
No, yes, it is.
Mhm.
Under
Okay.
contractual, account number 290.
Okay, there we are. I thought it was higher than that. Okay, that's why I didn't see it.
Dan, it is, but it's split between the other utilities also.
Okay, that makes sense. All right. Well, we're good with IT?
Yep,
Yep.
I think so.
All right. So next is, and my next tab is City Hall.
Same here.
I think we're good here.
Okay, no comments?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay, I have general government under insurance workers' compensation. I don't think we have a whole lot of choice on these things. Any discussion on this?
We're good.
Nope.
Hearing none. Next section is police,
What was that, Dan?
police department.
Okay.
Hey, Dan, this is Tom.
Go ahead, Tom.
I just got a comment on the crossing guards. I'm glad to see that they stayed in. You know, we've heard from the school district with the concerns of those going out and on a sudden basis. And so I'm glad to see that we're keeping them in. It looks like the only one we're eliminating is the middle school one, right? Is that true?
Well, when I look at this, and this is on my list also, Tom, so thank you
Okay.
for bringing this up. So if you look at the budget book, because I've also talked with Chief Ashbeck about this, so there is no line extension under 2021 proposed gross salary so he is proposing there will not be one at Main and Sand Lake, nor at Quincy at OMS, East Avenue in Troy, or Main at Perch. The only one that he's looking at keeping for 2021 is Sand Lake and Quincy. And thus the line item for the 5738 that's extended.
Okay.
So
Well, it is coming up.
he is proposing those first four to not be staffed for 2021. And I know something was posted recently on Facebook that the intersection of Main Street and Sand Lake will not have a crossing guard in the morning or afternoon this fall.
Mhm.
So I do have a concern.
Yeah, well, and that's what I do too. And I talked to the school district, being the liaison for the school district, and also knowing Todd, and their concern is that number one, when school does return, which sounds like it's going back now to virtual,
Yeah.
that they're concerned that they don't have a budget in 2021 to replace them themselves. And the feedback they've gotten from quite a few parents is there's an uproar about not having supervision for the little kids in the grade schools, of having someone there to, for a safety concern. So I told him I would pass that along. And I think he did talk to the chief, I believe, too. So I think the chief has heard that. But that would be my concern. And I know that it's budget issues and we have to find money if we don't do it here. But I think we are going to get quite a negative feedback from the public if it gets communicated beyond the school. Because the school's already concerned and they're getting feedback that there's going to be a lot of concerns if we don't cover those children crossings, for especially the younger ages. So middle school, I'm okay with. I don't think that's a big deal. But, Irving Perch, Northern Hills, those are, pretty small kids. And have them to go and press the new button or wherever they go on their own without just running out, there could be some concern. So I just wanted to voice that concern. I don't know the answer, but I told the school district that I would relay that across if we could find some solution, or even if they felt that they might be able to do something. But the short notice, because they're a consolidated school district, they cross multiple lacrosse, 3 or 4 different, they'd have to do something within those school district to get it approved and get the funding to even do their own crossing guards if they had to. And they were very concerned they couldn't do that as quickly as January 2021.
And thank you for that, Tom. And my concern is also, in talking to Chief Ashbeck, that it's also a staffing issue.
Right.
Not only are we talking budgetary issues, but they're having problems just finding people. So even if we were to be able to fund it,
Right.
will they be able to staff it? And my additional concern would be if we do choose to staff these going forward into 2021, if we aren't able to find staff, then the last option is then they fill it with police officers,
Right. Yeah.
which
they're
I
doing today.
don't think is quite the ideal situation when we are under the budget constraints that we are. So I feel like we're shooting ourselves in the foot. And as someone who has been heavily involved in the school system for 20 years, and you were a school board member,
Mhm.
I hate to say this out loud, but do we want to be in the crossing guard business? I mean,
Right.
I don't know, quite honestly, what is our role? Should it be a school district responsibility? Not knowing what all other communities do, I don't know. I'm not saying that to be combative or to say that we shouldn't be doing it. I'm just putting it out there due to budget constraints and due to severe staffing issues, but trying to find someone.
Right.
What is the solution? I don't know what that is, but I do have a concern about those spots not being staffed.
Yeah. And that was my concern too. I mean, I get all of this.
Yes.
Their biggest concern, at least the feedback I got from them, is the shortness of notice on that if they did want to staff them, and if this effective January, that's just 2 months from now. And if they go back to school, having no one there, they think it's going to cause some concerns. And they don't have a budget for it either. So they need the lead time. So they were just concerned that it was such a short, they just found out about it I think at the last Public Works when it came out. And so that's when they've got quite a few parents called the school and said, hey, is that going to happen? What are we going to do? And so I don't know the answer either, but I told my, as a liaison and also as a former school board member and understanding from a parent side,
Yep.
I think there'll be some concerns with it. I agree. It's a budget issue. It isn't in our business to do it. Historically, we have I don't know the reason behind that, and I don't know what other communities do. But I think we should at least give the school district enough time to figure out what they could do on their own, because I think it does belong to the school district in the long term. So I just wanted to voice that concern. I don't know the answer, but I said I would share that concern to everybody.
And Fred, did you have input?
Yeah, could somebody, as a bookmark, tell me which one of the 3 you would like to have it restored? So I can give you an estimated cost with FICA. So which 3 are you looking to have restored?
Well, I think there are,
There's 4.
well, there's dollar amounts already on there right now.
Well, right now, you guys are talking about restoring 3 of the 4. So what's 3?
I don't know that we were talking about restoring them. We're just discussing what the role of the city should be with regard to crossing guards. I mean, that's something we certainly can talk about. I actually have a question for maybe Eric, you might know. What is typically in Wisconsin, is it the role of the school district or the municipality to fund and provide crossing guards?
I'll allow the chiefs who are, I imagine Chief Ashbeck is on the call as well to answer. Short answer is it depends. It's either one, the school district that does it, and as Alder Smith was mentioning, it requires sort of this formalized process that every tax entity underneath the school district has to approve exactly the same resolution and the funding and all that. Or it's municipalities located within. But I'm also hearing that there are communities that are looking at ways of not necessarily paying for them, but using volunteers. Communities with very strong parent-teacher associations, organizations, instead of families that may not be in a position to fundraise for those organizations, are instead giving of their time. And this is one area that they're giving of their time to the school to actually volunteer and, control intersections, even more than the intersections that can be budgeted for. So, I mean, you can do school, you can do the municipality, or you can look at other volunteer organizations.
I remember when I was a 5th grader, I proudly wore my orange safety crossing guard belt, and it was part of my job was to help little kids cross the street. And I wonder if some sort of a community cooperative outreach between the city, the school district, and
Dan, do you still
PTAs.
have that vest?
I don't know that it would fit anymore, but
Same here, Dan. I used to be a captain of the patrol boys, so, and girls, they were both, but it's been a while.
Okay, so is this something we want to kind of table and circle back to? Are we good with the budget the way it is, or is this something we might need to re-examine?
Dan, I'd like to recognize Fred.
Fred Bueller.
I just want to mention, as we move on, is that if you did do any kind of restoring here, you need about $20,000.
And do note that I have found some omissions or deletions that we may be able to find some money. But I think it's the bigger picture we need to talk about. I do think that we need to, I'm going to tag that personally, that we need to circle back to this. Tom?
And I was wondering too, maybe we could talk a little bit with the school district and see if there's something that we, before this truly gets finalized, to see what, what their thoughts of how quickly they could do something, knowing that our direction is that we're not in that business. And I don't think they'll disagree with that. I think it's just historic, but like Eric and I said, of knowing the school district, it doesn't happen overnight. It won't be done by January. And the concern, there's a void until that could happen if they choose to do that.
Well, and I think also.
So we're looking at just doing a little bit of if we can figure out a way to help them transition, that might soothe things and be a little bit better for public safety.
Chairman Stevens,
Yes, Chief Ashbeck.
I'm in my office and I'd like to come in and answer a few questions about this, but I didn't want to leave my office. Well, maybe you were looking for me. So would it be okay if I came over and
Oh, that'd be great.
answered something about the crossing guards?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll be right there.
Okay. And Stephen, you wanted to add?
Yeah, so if I heard correctly, it's two concerns. One is the actual budget, the funding for this, but the other is the personnel that it's hard to find them. So I'd hate to have us restore this, removing it from somewhere else, and then not even be able to expend the money because we can't find anyone to perform the duties. So I think that we really need to know what's the likelihood we can actually even find someone to do these things on short notice ourselves if we restore the money.
And as an aside also, I've looked at, I know what our pay scale is, and I'm somewhat familiar with the School Board of Onalaska is, at least I was until a couple years ago. And I'll go out on a limb and say out loud that I think that their pay structure would probably be more attractive to find people for the positions. Tom, would you tend to agree with me on
I
that?
agree with you. Yeah.
That is something that I have looked at considering they literally live down the street from us. So I've always kind of looked at where are we at on the pay scale versus what they are. And, but I do think that it would be a good thing for us to be able to transition because we have worked with the school district for so many years and so very well. And I think we need to maintain a good working relationship, but I think we need to look forward. Chief?
Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you for
Just a
joining
couple
us.
things I'd like to add about this. I do have some of those same concerns about just completely going without some of these crossing guards in certain locations, especially the elementary schools. But what I would add is that, and it will take a little bit of time, but what I was able to do in West Salem was approach a school board. They're basically by statute two ways, and the administrator kind of alluded to this, but essentially crossing guards typically have to be employed by a city by statute. So, but the other way around that is if each taxing municipality that is part of that school district passes a resolution that says it is okay for that school board or school to employ crossing guards, because typically then the idea is they are using employees probably for the city that they're crossing the kids in. But we did in West Salem is they went to every single taxing entity and passed that resolution, and then ultimately at the school board. So the school board was able to then employ crossing guards. It was still kind of a hybrid model where the village, had some crossing guards and the school had some, but that is what I would hope that we could transition to here, kind of a hybrid where like Sand Lake and Quincy, which is farther away from the schools, we would continue to try to have a crossing guard at that location, and the school could employ crossing guards at the other locations directly near their schools. The other thing I'd like to add is because, this will take a little bit of time with meeting schedules, and your concern, Tom, is accurate. The other thing that we don't want to lose sight here is that a simple parent, because of pedestrian laws, they're crossing children in crosswalks, they have to yield to cars. So any parent volunteer, they can throw on a reflective vest and they can simply walk the children back and forth without, if they're willing to volunteer, they don't need, to be employed by us or the school. So that is one way to bridge that gap, maybe before the school district could go around and get those resolutions passed, they could gather volunteers, parent volunteers to help do that. And as Alder Wolf has pointed out, we do have staffing difficulties right now. Like this week, we're having trouble filling positions because we don't have enough people the way it is. In front of the middle school, we have nobody. Sand Lake and Quincy, we're trying to staff that with officers, which I don't like using that type of resource for that. And Sand Lake and Maine, we simply don't have anybody. So with the controlled intersection there, we've decided we are permanently going to drop that one. So I just kind of wanted to brief you on all of that. And again, if you have any questions or anything, happy to answer that.
Appreciate that,
Thank
Chief.
you, Chief. So we're gonna take that, potentially circle back, but we're recognizing that we have staffing issues and we're gonna have, in the long term, have to make some changes. But all right, so do we have any other discussion in the police budget?
Not here.
Okay, hearing none. Move this over to the fire department.
Hey, Dan, this is Tom. Can I interrupt you before we go off the police? Since the chief is here again. I see, and I'm really supportive of the body cameras that I really support that, so I have no problem with that. But I was just seeing in the news recently that the sheriff's department just got a grant for their body cameras. Have we gone down that path, or is that something that we could look at to help? And maybe we have. I just thought, God, if they got some, wouldn't it be nice if we could get some money and not hit our budget? So, Chief, I was just curious.
That is a very hot topic. So it's a very relevant topic and one actually that is on the F&P agenda for next Wednesday.
Okay.
And ultimately probably the full council the following week. But the skinny of it is this. If you recall back in the spring, I did come to council, ask if we could be part of the City of La Crosse and a greater region grant application for body cameras. That actually was the exact same application to the Department of Justice that the Sheriff's Department was, they wrote a separate grant, so they weren't part of a kind of a collaboration. So we just found out that we were awarded that same grant.
Sweet.
So, but there are, some difficult choices that come with that, and I will go into greater detail about it. But yes, we right now, I can give you some quick numbers. That grant will cover close to $28,000 towards the body cameras. And there has been a donor that has come forward that is willing to match the other 50%, which is roughly $28,000 for that first year cost. And then they're looking at some second and third year donors to fund 2/3 and 1/3. But there are some caveats that come with that, and it's a different product of a body camera than what I originally proposed. So again, I'll go into more detail about that at the next meeting, but I just want to give you that there is some good news there.
Well, thank you.
And Chief, while you're there, come back. So on your 5-year new/replacement projection sheet, 21 through 24. Now, this is not equipment replacement. This is just your projection. So these items that are on here, most of these are on, like for 2021, these are already on capital improvements. Like the squad cars, the radios, are the tasers on there?
No,
Capital
that
improvements.
is something that we just through our equipment replacement budget that is in, our general budget right now
Okay.
has, I think I have 7 slated in that. So we try to just kind of rotate those
Okay.
through.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of fire then, or excuse me, police?
So now that the Chief Ashbeck has sat down, does anybody else want to? Any other questions for police?
I think we're good.
All right, not hearing any. Let's move on to the fire department.
Thank you, Chief.
Steve, Tom, you all good?
I have one quick question to ask Chief Goody.
Chief Goody.
Okay.
So you did, so we're no longer purchasing the tough books. I know that was kind of the thing some years ago when I was on technology. So
Right. The
we're
IT
moving away from
department
them.
found a better product for us at a lesser price. It's been working really well.
Good. That's good to hear. Thank you.
Yep.
I forgot to ask you that question earlier, so
Okay.
thank you. Oh, yes, Stephen Knott?
Yeah,
Steve
I also
Knapp.
have I have a question on 360, the vehicle maintenance and repairs. It seems that that's trending a way that would be counterintuitive, that it's getting less and less and less in the budget year to year. Is there a reason why it's becoming cheaper to do maintenance and repairs?
Well, it's not necessarily cheaper, but I mean, our equipment's being replaced, so hopefully the maintenance on the equipment would be going down.
Check. Okay.
And then just balancing that budget each year with 0 increase.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, no other questions regarding the fire department? Excuse me.
I think we are good.
All right, my next section is hydrants. I don't think there's a whole lot of things to change there.
We're good.
Next tab, government emergency. So emergency government.
Oh, I've got inspection.
We don't have inspection.
My fear is that you're not going to have some tabs and we're not going to cover some, but hopefully you'll have them all.
I'm keeping a list of the ones that we've skipped in my
Thank
order.
you,
So,
thank
I've
you.
got inspections next, but I'm gonna
Oh, I
write it down.
appreciate that, Stephen, because
Yeah.
that is my fear that we're gonna miss a few and then we're gonna miss some important questions.
Okay, so
Emergency government, Dan?
Yes, that's next in my book.
Okay, so reviewing this with Fred, let's see, so under emergency government, so there's page 1, you turn the page, and then we get to the emergency government line item description and justification. The second item, 100-52601, 340, the 8 tables and 20 desk chairs for EOC. I remember an email from Amanda talking about that room 112 chairs and tables went down to the EOC.
Right, so equipment was purchased instead of the room that's used very rarely, then the equipment went to the room that's used more frequently and then replaced downstairs in the EOC, the tables and chairs. I believe there's a request for the additional tables, the ones I'm currently sitting at, correct? To also go into EOC?
Yes, when this budget was put together, we were planning for the 8 tables and the 20 chairs, but I believe we have sufficient tables down there now. The chairs are repurposed, so to speak.
So you don't need the 2 additional tables that were in here right now.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
It looks like it's set up. I'm not sure if you were down there, but
Mhm.
it seems like it's working pretty good for us.
All right, so can we cross this $5,000 off?
Well, there's 5,000 for operating supplies and training, or would it be, that's the total, or Chief, would it be just the $30,159 line item for the 8 tables and 20 desk chairs?
Right. I would still leave some funds in there for operating, whether
Right.
operating and training, I believe is what it was. So
Right.
it was 3159 is what the numbers we pulled fairly quickly.
So I will move that we, Fred, what would be the proper way? Because usually we don't take things out, so this is not usual. I would just make a motion to remove that amount from that account number and line item.
Are we removing 3159 or are we removing the difference between
I'm getting there.
5,000 and 3159?
I'm getting there. Okay, so I will move that we remove $3,159 out of 100-52601, 340.
Okay, I will second that. Any
And then
discussion?
And under discussion, that is for the 8 tables and 20 desk chairs for EOC.
That's being removed, right?
For EOC, yes.
Is there any discussion on this matter? All those in favor of removing the, make sure I get your motion right, Diane. The, are we, I want to be clear, is the new amount 3159 or is the new amount 1941?
1841 stays.
Yeah, the 1841 stays. I'm just, my motion was
Okay.
to remove from that specified fund, the $3,159.
Okay, so the motion that was seconded is indeed to remove the $3,159 from line item 52601.
And for clarification, that will then just leave the balance of $1,841 for operating supplies and training. Correct, Fred? Thank you.
All right, hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please
Oh,
say
just
aye.
a second.
I know I can't vote, but under the.
Oh,
discussion,
no,
I have a comment.
absolutely. Stephen?
Got a comment. So is that 3159 part of what you'd said? There were some areas where we might be able to recoup for the
Yes.
crossing guards? Okay. that's
Or,
okay.
or something else,
Yeah,
or
sure.
for discussion later, yes.
All right.
Okay, Dan.
Good, Stephen? Okay. All those in favor of deducting 3159 from line item 52601, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is removed. All right, so my next section is jail. $200 for jail. Can we live with that? All right, the next section after that. Go into engineering.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Fred.
If I could have you're the only one that has to go back in your book. You need to, because all these books were put together exactly the same. What you need to look for is this inspection department 100-52400. If you go back like just a tad from before emergency government, you'll see you should have inspection department with the GL account numbers starting with 100-52400.
First of all, we got to find the inspection tab. Hold on.
Or it was right in front of emergency government.
Oh, yes, yes. You are correct. Did everyone find inspection? Yes. So Dan, did you find
Yes.
inspection? Okay.
Mine's before jail.
All right, well, I have it here. Okay, so we are now reviewing the inspection department.
Yes.
Anybody have any commentary on the inspection department?
I do have a follow-up question for our city administrator. I know, Eric, I had asked you on the phone yesterday about another area, but this does have to do with the part-time personnel again about the internship at $7.25 an hour. Would this also be possibly geared toward a college student and they would be receiving school credit for it? Or this could be, this could be geared towards?
It could be anyone, but the reason for the minimum wage internship is historically, we used to be able to accept interns and just claim credit for it. But under FLSA, we need to pay them. And so they're still getting credit for it, but it's a minimal amount that then we can earn while they work for us. Katie Ann, she can probably answer historically better if she's available.
And I guess I was fine with the other, was it Parks and Rec that we were talking about, I think? Was it Parks and Rec that was the other internship? There was another department that had put in an internship for $500. And I personally was fine if they got $7.25 an hour because they were also getting college credit. But if this is someone who's actually working, I just have a concern about paying someone minimum wage if it isn't for college credit. So
And this would be the same as in planning. The same. kind of-
it was planning. Okay. I mean, I look at our wages at the beginning of the book, our wage scales, and there is no one listed for $7.25 an hour. And I'll go on record saying that I think the city of Onalaska wages, the hourly wages, they've been bumped up the last couple years. They're better. But we seem to be notoriously on the low end for hourly wages. And I just have a concern with paying someone minimum wage. Fred?
Yeah, I can tell you, over the years, sometimes we call it a stipend payment because all it is a token of appreciation of utilizing someone who's getting credited through college.
Right. And I get that, especially if they are just earning, they're also getting college credit and it is a stipend. But I guess I'd like to just hear from others and what their thoughts are. Stephen?
Well, the large portion of a value of an internship is that they receive experience, which they can also use on a resume as soon as they graduate. So, I mean, there's value to internships that go above and beyond any token of appreciation, as Fred said, inside of a paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's typically internships across the board. That's the biggest value.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that gives me a better feel for it. So I do appreciate your input on that. Thank you. So anyone here, are we good with inspection then? So Dan, we're good.
All right, so I believe that then brings us to engineering.
Did we finish emergency government? We did, okay.
Yes.
And then jail, and engineering, okay. Looks like we're good here.
Okay, my next tab is Board of Public Works. I don't think there's going to be much to discuss there. Nothing on Board of Public Works? Yep.
We're good.
All right, so now we're into streets.
So I have a couple things I like to bring up.
Go ahead, Diane.
Let's see here. First of all, I want to thank Jared for listing, he continues to list the salt price comparison. It's kind of nice to have the history to kind of see, as someone who's been here a long time, I always kind of like to see the history of where we've been and the importance of why we have our additional salt shed. And I think Jared's always done a really good job to keep us ahead of the game. Secondly, on the personnel justification. Let's see, so there's page 1, front and back, and then you get to page 2. So the page that I'm looking at, it starts out at city engineer at the very top. And then I'm coming down to part 2, midway of the page, part-time personnel. And I just wanted to weigh in. I'm going to talk about wages a little bit again. I just have a concern. I have talked with Jared, I've talked with Dan, I've talked with our city administrator, and I'm just looking for input if anyone has any other feedback. The concern that I have is when we look at a seasonal maintenance 1. I've also talked to Hope, and I know that our part-time wages have gone up recently. Seasonal maintenance 1, Parks Department right-of-way mowing, $10 an hour. My concern is that the job that we're asking people to do, they are driving our trucks, they have mowers on their trucks. They're driving tens of thousands of dollars of their equipment. They have the responsibility that they do, and we're paying them $10 an hour. And we're putting a lot of faith, trust, and confidence in them with their equipment. And going forward, I'm just concerned the quality of employees that we're going to be able to attract for $10 an hour when fast food places are advertising for $15 an hour. And I know that there's a good subsection of people out there who they don't want to work at a fast food place. They want to work outside. They want to work in the summertime. They want to be outside, and they're willing to take a few dollars less. I just have a concern with paying people $10 an hour, asking them to do the job that we're asking them to do. So I have a concern that with the pay scale. So I do know that our pay study is forthcoming in the very, very near future, and part-time wages are part of that. And so I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that will shake out, because I, for one, would like to be able to support paying our part-time people more per hour. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Diane. So rounding back to the line items, does anybody need to make any changes or discussion? I'm not hearing any. So we'll move on to street signs. Anybody want to talk about signs? Here, no discussion on signs. So we'll move to street lights. Sounds like we're good with street lights. Okay, animal control. Hearing nothing on animal control, we'll go next to library.
So I have a question. I'm not sure who to ask, so it'll either be a Fred or a Eric question. What is our responsibility with the library? Do we have like a contract with them where, as far as what is our responsibility? Like, are we on a contract a year to year, or what is our obligation to the library? Fred,
The building is the city's, personnel is the county.
say that again?
The building is the city's, personnel is the county.
And that came through, or that was a kind of like a contract deal, or something was signed off some years ago, correct?
It's been that way. I've been here 40 years and it's been that way.
It's always been that way. Okay.
We hoped one year that maybe the county would take over the library.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Just one
Any other
second.
questions?
So I would, so I found, let's see, so on the budget page, it's the very first page, under 100-55-110-291 transcription contractual for $75. I believe that was for when the library commission used to be in existence. And I confirmed with Eric and also Fred that I believe that's what it was for. And we can remove that.
Which line was it, Diane?
It is account number 100. So my motion is that we remove the line item 100-55110-291 transcription contractual in the amount of $75.
Okay, there's a motion to remove item 100-55110-291 for $75. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Wolf, seconded by Olson to remove item 100-55110-291 for $75. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. $75 is removed. All right. Any other points in the library?
Nope, we're good.
My next section is parks.
Only thing I would add again is the seasonal maintenance for various positions at 10.25 an hour. So, but hopefully that'll be looked at when we get to the wage study. Thank you.
Anybody else have any commentary on parks? And right next to parks is recreation.
So Dan, under recreation, I just wanted to follow up, under part-time personnel, I have followed up with our city administrator regarding the community outreach/marketing. It is a, part-time position new, but I have confirmed with Eric that, this is not necessarily looking to remain in, recreation. So just kind of FYI, that is not looking to necessarily remain in recreation at this time, but that'll come before F&P later for a job description and final approval next year.
Okay, does everybody know which line you were talking about or which?
Under part-time personnel.
Okay, the vacant one for
For the-
2383, okay.
Yeah, for the 1,199 hour position.
Okay, so that one's just flagged for purpose of, will be talked about at a different meeting.
Yes, and a revised job description will be coming forward in the future.
So the dollar amount should remain where it is, or should we take that out then?
Well, I mean, the dollar, everything changes except where it is apportioned as far as the.
So if that amount stays the same, then we can slide it to wherever it's appropriate.
Right.
Right.
I don't know if Eric wants to weigh in or if it's necessary, but I'll let him make that decision.
The conversation about that position initially looked at possibly combining with a different position within the recreation department. It was not put in there. And then further conversation about creating the position, based on the earlier conversation that was created. Dan Wick met his budget requirements prior to this. This was an addition of a position later on. So you do see that the personnel line cost does increase. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be there. Wherever it does go, that expense will also go. And there is a position description in the binder, at least it's in mine, at the end here, but it does say Parks and Rec.
Diane, I apologize
Stephen?
for my confusion, but I am not tracking where it is you're talking about here.
Oh, okay. Oh, no. Okay, so under recreation,
Looking here.
and so you just turn the first page, it'll be on the back side. Oh, and please, any questions, please holler. Yes, because it's a big budget book.
Oh, here it is. All right. Track.
And thank you for asking, because that's, you should ask it. Fred?
Okay, just for clarification, when you're looking at the 20,383 plus the FICA, you're looking at a total of $21,942. If the intention is once this budget gets passed and it's sitting in here, we would have to do a budget resolution to move it to a different location. So if you were going to move it, now is a good time to move it.
Okay.
It would likely be 100% the general fund still, Fred,
Well,
possibly
yeah, it's gonna be in
administration
the general
probably.
fund. It's just a matter, I'd have to do a resolution to move it from point A to point B. If we do it tonight, then it's done.
And I would suggest moving it to administration then.
Okay. And that would be, which fund it would be under the city administrators tab?
It's probably the best place then, right?
Okay. That's what should happen tonight, to move it from 100-55-200 to.
Hold on. Could you say those numbers slower, so I can get this right?
100-55-200.
No, it's actually 55-300 because it's in recreation.
100-55.
55-300 series, moving it to 100- second. 51408 series.
So from 100-55-300 series to 100-51408 series.
Correct.
I will move that we move the community outreach marketing position from 100-55300 series to 100-51408 series.
Motion by Diane. I will second it to bring it up for discussion. Is Dan Wick in the room?
Yes, I am.
So just for discussion purposes, I know at last night's Parks Rec and Library Board meeting, there was discussion on the staffing changes. There was an expressed concern that the workload was going to be spread too thin on the maintenance. Could you talk about the importance of this position and maybe some of the service deficits that we're going to have in keeping up with the parks? I'm just wondering if that money would be better utilized in maintaining the parks that we have.
I guess, Dan, I'd refer this to City Administrator Ryan Flesch. You know, it was brought, he brought it forward that there was a concern that we needed to do some more community outreach. This was not something that was generated from the Park and Rec Department or included in any of the Park and Rec Department budget stuff. So City Administrator may be the best one to answer that, you know, with what we have.
Well, I have you there. Based off of the current human capital that we have, are you going to be able to keep the parks presentable to the public?
It's very early in this game, Alderman Stevens, and so we are working with that. I'm currently working with the staff that we have and trying to put a game plan together, what services that we will continue to offer, what services we may not be able to. And so we are currently working on that list and compiling as much information as we can at this time.
All right, thank you. Mr. City Administrator, do you have anything to add? Mr. Wick kind of referred that to you.
Yeah, no, the position in terms of community outreach and marketing, if you will, is not to sell anything to the public. It's here to be responsive to the public. But we are finding over more recent past, the communication to the public is not uniform. We have a vast variety of social media that's not consistent. The message is not consistent. The level of communications and the use of language, graphics, design is scattered, and it's very difficult to access information from the city and communicate out to the public in that way. So it's not necessarily a social media driven position. It's also communications, newsletters, either electronically or printed, and protecting the logo. Even today, discovered on our current social media, are we truly getting permission to use any of the graphics that we use? That's also potentially a liability issue, and having somebody that is a professional marketer or someone that can do that work, we can provide a very consistent message in a way that the public demands to receive it in a professional manner, in a way that really kind of eliminates our liability for what the messages we're saying. This is also a goal that has been discussed quite a bit from various council members over the past, and in particular this year, as we worked remotely, I decided that this was something that we could accomplish on a part-time basis to begin moving forward and entering the 21st century with our communications.
No, I totally understand the need and the benefit of this position. It's just I'm just hoping other council members will weigh in. I think we need to set the priority. This has a lot of value, but it's kind of heartbreaking to listen to the board last night, and we'll have some decisions to make, and I'm just wondering if the timing is good on this, but I'll move it along and at least let it get to council. I mean, that's.
Well, Dan, I'm going to weigh in and then Stephen, not real quick. So I know in talking with, I talked with a number of department heads the last 2 days before tonight's meeting regarding the 2021 proposed budget. And I was very happy to hear that one department, for example, will be taking over some snow removal duties from parks I believe they're going to be doing like the Great River Landing, snow removal, maybe like 2 other spots. So at this point in time, I hear departments are working together, trying to find resolutions, and I'm very confident that they're going to continue doing that moving forward. So I share your concern. I think we're all concerned, like, how is this going to work? Talking with Jared Holter, I was very happy to hear that they're already talking. There's already plans being made. So I am very hopeful moving forward. I know it's going to be a struggle. I expect it to be a struggle, but I firmly believe we have the right people in the right places to work together and make those joint decisions. But I know it's not going to be easy. Stephen?
Yeah, so the way that conversation went Monday was, we were updated on the staff reductions that occurred, and just use that that as a challenge. I wanted to inform the board, that the Parks and Rec Board, that what they should expect from that when you have reduced numbers of hours, is you probably should, we should expect that at some point, the Parks and Rec was going to come forward to us and tell us what services were either going to be reduced and or eliminated. And it was just to prepare that ground, so it's not a shock when that happens, so they can, oh yeah, I know why this is happening now. That's where that came up with. It sounds like what I heard from Dan just now is they're still kind of looking at what the impact is going to actually be. And what I'm hearing from you is that there's already some actions taking place to mitigate that. So that's the whole background on what Dan Stevens was referring to.
Alder Stevens?
Somebody want to be recognized, or we?
That was me.
Oh, go ahead.
It's unfortunate that the conversation about this particular position is sort of dovetailed to 2 positions that were impacted at the Parks and Rec Committee, one in City Hall and one in the Parks Department. I think it's appropriate to bring up that for the public record, there were more than those layoffs in order to achieve a balanced budget this way. The police department was affected, the fire department was affected, engineering, inspection, solid waste, finance was affected, and obviously City Hall maintenance, as well as the parks maintenance. So there are lots of positions affected in order to do, this particular goal, but also some of the bigger goals that the council has established as well long-term. And I'll echo that every person that was laid off was vital, and every position that they did was vital and important. If it wasn't, they wouldn't have been in their positions right now. We are a lean organization, as I've stated to the council. There are things that, aren't necessarily being accomplished already prior to even the COVID-19 response. And there will be service impacts because of it, in many departments. So, I appreciate Alder Knotts, pointing that out, that there is an impact and departments are working together to mitigate that as much as possible. And it unfortunately will impact a variety of departments and services that the public sees.
Oh, and that's duly noted. I certainly appreciate that. It's I think part of what we're doing here tonight is looking at what the future dollars are, and are we utilizing those to the best of needs. I believe I was one of the elders that was supportive of this community outreach marketing person. I'm just I think that there's absolutely a need, but we have lots of needs, and as you pointed out, there were a lot of needs that were we've recently had to let go of. So my view is that our duty is to try to keep things going the best that we can and provide the the highest quality of life. And that the answer may be that's part of the community outreach marketing. The answer might be that that's we could have a little bit more help with mowing. But I'm glad to hear that departments are working together. Maybe there's a way that we can reimagine things so we avoid duplication on specific jobs between departments to go to that end. But, you know, for right now, we're just kind of discussing this, and that's why I brought that up. So, but anyway, so we have a motion. Is there any other discussion on the motion, which was to move item 55300 in recreation to 100-51408, which was what department was that?
Administration.
Administration.
Administrator.
So that's the motion on the floor as it stands. Is there any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah, that
We-
motion passes.
Are we hearing Jim? Because I have not been hearing Jim.
I
Are you-
heard Jim.
Oh, you did? Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure.
As long as I can hear him, it's all good.
Okay, exactly, but I just want to make sure that his voice is getting recorded. Thank you.
All right, so next we're gonna take a jump into the swimming pool. So the aquatic center. Aquatic center got dusty this summer. Hopefully we'll be able to use it again next year.
That's the plan.
Any commentary on aquatic center?
I don't, oh, Tom Smith?
Yeah, I have a question, and I know that, you know, I think I know the answer, but we saved a lot of money by not opening the pool this summer with the idea that, well, we could get some maintenance done, which we did, you know, that we probably wouldn't have been able to do. And we did save some money by not opening because it would have cost us a lot more with all the regulations. I assume that money's all gone. Or was some of that savings somewhere in the park and rec budget that is in here, or is it something that is gone? Or I don't know if that's Fred, but you know what I mean? It was just something.
It comes out of the whole pot of the general fund.
Okay, it is a general fund thing. It did, okay, I thought that was a separate one. Okay.
That's the exercise that Fred led going back to July, where we kind of reviewed what our revenues were and our expenses.
Okay,
Where
yeah,
We assume we're going to end up in the year.
that's
It's
what
all
we,
inclusive
okay.
of the general fund. So any
Okay.
savings or any, reduction in expenses is all included in that for.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I thought, oh, it'd be nice if there was still some left somewhere that we could use, but okay.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, nice dream. Thank you.
You can dream.
So I mean, since we're talking about this, I mean, we're operating with the assumption that we're going to open the pool in 2021. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's what we're including in the budget, correct?
And to follow up with Alder Smith, on the very first budget page, it shows wages, temporary, seasonal. You know, the budgeted was 86,889 and $0 were expended. So that did get,
Got it.
so Alder Knott?
Well, city administrator kind of hit on where I was going to go with my comment as far as when you hear savings, it actually was a significant reduction in expenses. And yeah, you just covered it, so I'm good.
Yeah.
In the event that COVID,
no.
like the situation does not improve, I mean, is this something that's on the table that that we potentially might not open the pool again in 2021?
Dan, you're hexing us. If you were here right now, I would be kicking you, I think. I'm sorry.
Right, something.
Alder Knott?
Oh, we want the pool to be open.
I don't know if it would be beneficial to be going line by line on what may or may not be impacted by COVID in
Right.
next September. I think we take that on when it
Yeah.
occurs.
All right, so we're just going to operate with we're going to open the pool, and next summer we'll hopefully open the pool.
Yeah, I'm assuming with our looking at 2021 proposed budget, it's business as usual. So, because that's all we can do. Fred, did you have anything okay, we're good. So I think we're all good here on Aquatic Center.
All right, my next tab is urban planning. So it's under economic development.
I would like Eric and or Fred to talk about the city study wages.
Okay, that'd be the next page.
For the $75,000 figure, just so everyone's just all on the same page.
That was one of my tabs.
Yep.
too.
Right,
Those
so
listed
we're
under-
going Pat, I mean, assuming there's no discussion on other contractual services, 56,700. I don't think there'd be any discussion on it, but so the city study wages is the next one then, 56610.
Correct. So what you see under the title is city study. This is actually a second pot of money set aside for the general fund for the impact that the wage study would have, showing if, we're behind the marketplace and adjustments need to be made. So you had seen on the wage sheets, there's a line item there that each department is funding it through their own expenses, a portion of that. That equals about $50,000. I don't anticipate that being enough to make adjustments to the employees. And so as the budget being prepared, instead of redoing all the wage sheets, working with Fred, we put together this line item for city study impact. So this is the general fund impact that when we need to make adjustments to wages now going forward within the general fund, that money is set aside for those adjustments. It'll be $125,000 total.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay, Diane, any other questions?
Nope.
Or any other alders?
I'm just glad we have it in there because that's one thing we really wanted to make sure we don't lose. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good, Dan.
Yep. All right. My next tab is planning. Here we have, see that internship we spoke about before.
I think we're good.
I don't see anything askew. All right, water department. They just flushed my street today, the hydrant out front. No commentary on water?
Nope. Oh, wait a minute. Water. Wait a minute, there's a lot of pages. Hold on. Yeah, and if you can't lift your fingers, it's harder to turn pages, so just give us a few seconds. Fred, this is one of the sheets that I was wanting you to explain, maybe pages 10 of 11.
I'm not finding you, Diane. Where are you?
Page 10 of 11. Is this the one we discussed, Fred?
Okay, where we're currently at is the front of each tab that we're getting into now, this as an enterprise fund, you have the Tyler budget worksheet. So it's the last sheet of the Tyler budget worksheet, which is page 10 of 11. What this represents, again, you're going to see the same thing in the changes up front. We have a tab that says budget changes. From the budget that was submitted by the department head compared to the budget from the city administrator, there is a deduction of $62,646 under expenses.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
And if you were to look into changes up front, you'd see where those areas were.
Mhm.
And also, as long as we're on the water utility, just keep in mind, on October 16th, the city of Onalaska had its public hearing on the water rates. They kept it open through the 22nd of October for people to comment in reference to the city of Onalaska rates. So we should be knowing very soon as to the outcome from the Public Service Commission.
And a question to follow up with Eric regarding the, right after that page that Fred's talking about, page 10 of 11, then the very next page in portrait mode is the personnel justification. Just want to follow up with Eric, the public works operator slash lab assistant. That is, you are filling Jared's request for a lab assistant then.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Because I know when I was up to the shop in the last few months and talked to Jim Prindle, I know the increased need for water testing and everything that they're going through and the DNR requirements and such. So, yes, I certainly support this. Thank you.
Right. We can jump from water right into the sewer. You like that, huh, Joe?
Yeah, that was neat. Sounds a lot like my high school days.
Usually it works better if you go the other way, but
Yeah, exactly.
any discussion on sewer?
Just a second. I'm still flipping through all the many pages of water in case I have questions. So I'm getting there. Just give me a minute. So if I could just go back to water for a quick minute. So Eric, the full-time water operator, which is really a public works operator, that will come before F&P, the job description for approval then? When we're ready to post and fill?
Moment I get to the page.
Yeah,
That's a true statement, is it's in the budget, but when they actually come to do
It will- okay.
You'll see it again.
okay. Yeah, I just wanted to confirm. Yeah, there's just a lot, yeah, and I have writing on everything. I'm still trying to flip through water because there's so many pages. Okay, I'm through water. I'm ready for sewer. Thank you.
Okay, so we went from water to sewer, back to water, got clean. Now we're going back to the sewer.
While Diane's getting there, I just want to mention at the committee level, we roughly 2 years ago had a study done by HAPCO, which the council and committee had authorized to get the sewer utility in line with its debt requirements. And it was approved by committee level at that time. We were going to do it in 2 phases, 50 cents on the transmission rate in 2020 and 50 cents, which the committee approved moving forward on this budget for the year of 2021. That additional 50 cents increase on the transmission rate would generate, as my note says on the bottom of the first page of this document, additional $309,200.
That stays within the utility fund, right, Fred?
Yep, and at this point, which Jared may pipe in a minute or two, is this budget represents a no change in the treatment rate at this time, which in the treatment rate is a cost to recoup the costs for the sewage to be treated in the city of La Crosse.
Is that 50-cent increase, was that permanent or is that just for the
Oh, no,
2021?
the 50% or the 50-cent increase was on a transmission. As my little pencil mark indicates that we went from $1.90 to $2.40.
And the transmission is internal, how we
It's all
collect
the
it
cost-
ourselves. The
it's
treatment
all-
is what we can
Yep.
send to La Crosse.
It's all the costs except for it's an entire operation of the sewer utility with the exception of the sewage going and being treated to La Crosse, which is one line item. And if we really want to see it, it's on the next page, 620-58100-290. It's $1,883,500.
All right, Diane, are you with us in the sewer?
Yep, I'm good.
Excuse me. All right. Hearing nothing else in the sewer, now we'll go to the cemetery.
While everybody's working their way to the cemetery, is the committee level at the A&J and review of the budget, raise the sale of lots from $860 per lot to $880. The infant plots from $290 to new $295. And this budget reflects that modification.
So I have a question for Jared, if Jared's on the line.
Yes, Dan?
Hello there. So I see that we're projected for 2021 that we're looking at being a little bit over $22,000 running a deficit, which I realize the city continues to run a deficit for the cemetery every year. When do you anticipate bringing forth a proposed plan to A&J or council for the cemetery, for forgive me, what was it?
The master plan.
Thank you, the master plan. Yes, the master plan.
So I'm hoping to bring that forward to the December judiciary meeting. If not December, it'll probably be January. And then we can start implementing that in 2021.
Okay. And do we anticipate that could be helpful in assisting us in running less of a deficit yearly? Fred has his hand up. So I don't know, Jared or Fred to answer that.
Go ahead, Fred.
Okay.
Well, just keep in mind, and that's why I just ran a tab, is when you see a 22,830, I just want you to know that, and granted, depreciation is just a line item. The 3 lines of depreciation on page 205 total 25,536. So if you're looking at the 25,536 off 22, you'll see that it's really not as bad as it looks.
Okay. That makes me feel better, but, so.
Jared, well, I know that there was a lot of community support for the completion of the cemetery. Now, with the cemetery master plan, I know that got to be a little bit more expansive, but the working on the cemetery fence along at least it'd be on the east side of the cemetery. How much of the master plan going forward that'll be presented, does that include the completion of the fence, or are these could they be 2 separate measures? So I guess what I'm getting at is that we made some nice headway on the cemetery, and then it seems like it's kind of stalled. And I know in the public and cap improvements budget there was nothing for that this year. But that's kind of what the case was last year, and I think that next year is probably not going to be any different. I'm wondering if there's a way that we can try to complete the fence, even if we have to just do it piecemeal at a time. Go up to halfway through to the street or something like that. Or if it's a matter that we can just make it a sinking fund and put a little bit of money in each year, if we can't complete it. So I guess to reiterate, how much of the completion of the fence, is that inclusive, or is that separate from the cemetery master plan, which had not crematoria, I forget the word where you put ashes, but
Columbarium.
yes.
So the fence is in the capital improvement budget for 2021. It's a reviewable item in the 21 budget. The fence is part of the master plan. It'll be stated in it, but the master plan includes many elements, and this would just be one of them.
All right,
And then-
I thought it was taken out of cap improvement. Did that make the cut?
It is currently removed, and Fred wanted input. Fred?
Go ahead, Fred.
Well, I guess I want to go back to Alderman Stevens' comment is keep in mind the cemetery versus capital projects. Okay, so when you're talking capital projects and anything in relates to the comprehensive plan or the fence, all that is through capital projects, not the cemetery. Cemetery cannot afford, and we don't want to get into starting to levy of any form to making dollars break even within a cemetery.
Yeah, I realize this probably isn't the right platform for it, but since we were talking about the cemetery, it piqued my mind. So, all right, I don't have any other discussion. So, does anybody else want to talk about the cemetery? Hearing none? Yep. Next section is the Omni Center. I note that 640-41210 has room tax revenue of 0, but it's not that bad.
Give me a minute, I gotta look up something real quick.
The main reason for that, Alderman Stevens, is that is no longer goes through that account. That was changed a few years back. Any revenue coming in, because they cannot be a direct recipient of the room tax, has to come through in what they call transfer, operating transfer in, which is on page 204.
Yeah, Fred, thank you for that, but I was just adjusting. So, Steve, I know you're a hockey enthusiast. You think get your eye out on in here?
No, we've already talked this at the Parks and Rec Board.
Hey, Diane, are you up to speed?
Yes, I am good, thank you.
Okay, Omni Center is complete. Moving into tourism.
What about stormwater?
Tourism next. Tourism next also.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was.
Yeah.
Tourism?
It's after tourism.
I have stormwater.
Okay.
Yeah, mine's the other way, yeah.
Alder Stevens, do you still have stormwater in your book?
No, we'll go with Dan.
I have it. It's right after tourism, so we can do stormwater next. It's fine.
Right, as long as we don't skip
Since
that
it's
one.
utility.
Oh, so you're on tourism right now?
I'm on tourism, but
Me too. Okay, you're good.
Yep,
I'm here to serve. So whatever. Okay, so we're gonna do tourism next, and then stormwater. So Fred, here we have the room tax revenue, but because of the transfer, you get it. All right. We all good?
Yep.
Mhm.
So now we're
Okay,
on storm.
now I'm on to stormwater.
Okay.
Fred, are you going to explain the ERU or would you like me to?
I'll let you start.
Okay, if I may, Dan?
Yes, Jared Holder, go ahead.
In your packet tonight, you'll see a graph that outlines the stormwater ERU rate over time. At the September utility meeting, we did discuss that rate. In between that time, it was realized that the budget that I had prepared did not take into account in 2019, we had a proposed ERU rate and then the rate that Habco had recommended, which was $1.88 more per ERU for cash flow purposes. At the 2019 budget, we have approved 84.56 for an actual 2019 ERU rate. I had used the proposed rate when I did the calculations for 2020. So at the utility committee meeting back in September, we had approved a rate of 84.68. Accounting for costs in the utility and keeping the $1.88 that we had increased it through Habco's cash analysis, we're actually at an 86.44. So in your packet budget materials, we did change that discrepancy. So the graph that you see tonight has the 86.44 for a proposed rate, not the rate that was at the utility committee meeting. So I guess with that, I'd open it up for questions for myself or Fred.
So Jared, that is the landscape table that's revised 10/8/2020, correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
This is what you're looking for. Okay, just want to make sure we're all on the same. Fred?
So with that said, this committee needs to make a motion to have the ERU rate from 2020 go from 84.56 to 2021 being 86.44, which is $1.88 per ERU increase, right, Jared?
Correct. More than what I had proposed in the at the utility committee meeting.
Which is 47 cents per quarter.
All right, could you rephrase that a little more succinctly, Fred, so we can put in a motion? Please.
It's in the first page of your tab.
Well, if I heard Fred right, the motion, so I'll move that we increase, that we increase the ERU rate that was 2020 from 84.56 to the 2021 rate, which should be $86.44. And that's a $1.88 per ERU increase.
Per year.
Per year.
Or 47 cents per quarter.
Or 47 cents more per quarter. I think that's kind of hard to make any shorter of a motion, to be quite honest. So that is my motion.
All right, I will second that and for discussion. Just don't make me restate that. Changing from the 2020 rate of 84.56 to the 2021 rate of 86.44 for an increase of 47 cents per quarter. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Per ERU.
Per ERU.
Per ERU. We can give Jim a minute, or do we want to just vote on this? Any other discussion? All those in favor, please say.
Wait, Fred.
The only comment I wanted to make is the figures in the 2021 administrative budget represent the increase in ERU.
Okay, so nothing needs to be changed, line item.
No.
This will make us back to
Makes
snuff.
us whole.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Dan.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Jim, are you an aye?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes unanimously. Is there any other discussion in stormwater?
Chair, since we're approaching the 2-hour mark that we've been in session, I would ask that we take a quick 5 to 10 minute quick recess or break and come back, if that would be amenable to everyone.
I would be amenable to that. Jim, would you be amenable?
Yep, that's fine.
All right. I have the time as 7:25 p.m. We'll resume at 7:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I gotta stretch.
So there's also that. Anything you just wanted to show off her new clothes? Doesn't she look spectacular? Hi, Jim.
Hey, Bob.
Oh, That got the mayor's attention.
Yeah, I'll come back for that. Ginger, come here. You can see your friend. Say hi.
Oh, look,
Say
Mickey.
hi.
Who's that?
Yeah, you guys look alike.
Is that
You can
Ginger or
be
Gizmo?
friends.
On
This
YouTube.
is Ginger. This is Ginger. She's my big
She's
baby.
even got a little hood so she can like
Oh, are you jealous, Ginger?
look around and look
You
cool.
want a hat like that? Gizmo, come here. Nope, he wants to go to bed. He doesn't want to be participating in this meeting.
So you definitely have to have him to bed by midnight.
Oh, look at how. So is she a good little dog?
Hmm?
Is she a good little dog?
Yeah, usually. Sometimes she's kind of an instigator. She knows that she's cute, so she tries getting away. And she also thinks she's a cat, apparently.
I think that little dogs think they're cats.
Here.
We experienced that at our house as well.
All right. Off with you. Go. Play.
So Jim, how have you been?
Not too bad.
You been running the roads still?
Yep. It's next week looks good for temperatures.
Yeah, for the one. Yeah, so you didn't go
Great.
slip sliding around last week, did you?
Yeah. 59 on Monday or Tuesday.
Okay,
Not
nice.
bad.
In 5 seconds. 7:33.
Yes, in 2 seconds.
Mr. Chair, it's 7:33.
Mhm.
We're getting there. I'm gonna take my mask off for a few minutes to drink my pop. We don't get- Okay. I think we've accomplished a lot in a short period of time, and
Parking rate.
we're doing very well. Yeah, we're doing real well.
We still have.
Okay.
And there's only $100 in that one.
I know, but it has to be covered.
So I think we're all, this is like the most barren budget we've ever had. So it's like, do we have everyone here that started with us, right? Okay. So Dan,
Yes, ma'am.
I think we are ready, sir, Mr. Chair. Were we Great Gunderson, Gunderson Lutheran Parking?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, unless anybody wanted to revisit the stormwater utility. All right, so it's we're resuming the meeting. It's 7:30. Oh, I have 7:34.
34.
7:34.
All right, so we are now talking about the Gunderson parking ramp. Any discussion?
I think we're good.
Right. I'm into the park fund. Not hearing any comments. Park fund's good.
Yep.
So special projects.
Special project, wait. a minute.
Wait,
Oh, yes.
donations, special project expenses.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd really do anything with this.
And I do want to remind everyone, Fred did come out with about a 3 or 4 page staple packet this past week that he asked everyone to put in their packet. So hopefully everyone got that and added it to your packet.
This was this one, the yellow.
Yes, it had a yellow cover. Yes.
Yeah, what had happened, I discovered through the copier machine, it sucked a couple sheets in at one time, so that's why you didn't pick it.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Refuse or refuse recycling. Private joke, sorry.
Let's see. Think we're good?
Right? Diane, you're good? Jim, you're good?
Yep.
All right, next we're gonna go to the Onalaska Shared Ride.
Okay.
One question I would have, and I apologize, I don't mean to spring this on Alder not. I know I had forwarded you someone, the,
Yeah, followed up, talked with the city staff.
okay,
Yeah. So do you want an update?
yes,
As
please.
far as, what their desire of that individual was that we have a more robust public transit system. And after talking with the city staff, I found the answer I fully expected to. I know that that's exceedingly expensive. And of course, to do that, we're going to be having to cancel other services and things as well too. So I've already gotten back with that individual and told them that that will not happen almost certainly in the 2021 budget unless we decide to. But again, you have to find the money. And I also wouldn't expect it to happen anytime in the near future. So, but I gave the alternatives that we do have in the area already.
Thank you. And it was Havenwood that had reached out to me. They were very happy that a light was coming out to their intersection this next spring. But yeah, they had reached out to me and was just talking about with their population that they had there and busing and such. That's why I referred them to Third District Aldernot. So I figured that it was going to be a very expensive proposal that they were looking for, but so thank you for following up on that.
Any other commentary on the shared ride?
Fred?
The only comment I want to make is next week we'll have a public hearing on raising the fare increase 25 cents. And if you look at the paperwork, it's probably about 2 pages in on your document. It's the methodology and the overview of how the shared rides system functions as far as costs. Is every 2 years we try to modify the fare increase to be consistent of what's going out there in day to day. And also the utility went on record for the city of Onalaska to make a contribution of $7,500 for the smart bus. And that is what the local share is. And you can see that the local share is down from what it was in 2020, mainly because of the fact that we are able, it's not a good thing, but because of COVID, but we are able to get 3 vehicles at no cost to this, 4 vehicles at no cost to the city, where we would have normally would have to pay 20% of the cost.
Thank you, Fred.
All right, then. Next is equipment replacement. I don't know if this actually has a So under City Hall, new replacement. It's the only budget sheet there.
So Fred, if I may ask, when it comes to equipment replacement, so if we approve this tonight, when it comes to 2021 to purchase things, will only purchases that total a certain figure above and beyond come before us for approval, and anything under a certain set figure just automatically gets purchased? Or how does that work again?
And in Fund 207 this is just like a capital outlay. It used to be account number 810. Is each department, if this budget is approved, would be able to buy what they have budgeted, following the guidelines of the purchasing policy procedures.
Okay,
Now, there's always the opportunity of maybe doing something different than what they purchased, but stay within their budgetary guidelines. Anything different, as you'll see coming up on, I guess the agenda may or may not be out for F&P, but
yes.
there's some unanticipated revenue coming in, so he would like to spend some unanticipated expenditures. That all has to come through committee level.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so how do we want to, we can talk about like each department with equipment replacement, or just talk about, is there anything in replacement and Fund 207 that anybody wants to hash out?
I don't see anything.
Dan, I just have a question on the aquatic center. There's one in the budget, the replacement for the exterior blue slide for 17,550. I assume that, is that replacing or fixing it? I don't know if Dan is available. Is that replacing? I know it's pretty faded when the last time I saw it, that slide. Is that replacing it or just fixing that? And then that, I assume that's something we didn't do this last summer with those extra funds that we saved.
Yes, Alderman Smith, it is not a replacement. We're talking a couple $100,000 for a replacement. This is where they come in and replace the gel coat on the exterior of the slide, replace caulk joints and stuff inside the slide. Okay. It's just routine maintenance. Once this project is done, we've gone through the interior and exterior of all of our slides up at the pool since they were put in 2005.
Got it. Thank you. I knew the price wasn't that much. I was just curious if it was replacing. So it really is maintenance then, huh?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
So I think we're good with 207, Dan.
All right. My next tab is municipal court.
Fred?
If I could just expand a little bit, as this budget went through the Joint Municipal Court Board, they were pleased what they seen, and that board approved option B. The reason why you see an option C and why this budget was modified through the administrative was option C is because of modifications to the staff.
They approved option C final.
No, they approved option B. Administration budget approved, administrator's budget here represents option C final, which is the modifications in the staff, which is a reduction. The expenditures went from 224,971 on option B, which is in the center on the top page, to 221,225. What I'm looking at is the methodology that I put together, and it's labeled on the upper right-hand corner, option C final.
So let me say that again. So option B was Joint Municipal Court approved, and
Yes.
option C final is City Administrator final approved and submitted to us.
Yeah, based on the changes that he made in his budget.
Thank you.
Okay, so C is what we're working with then, right?
Yes. Aldernaut?
Yeah, I just want to clarify too, because it was introduced as municipal court. It's actually the joint municipal court, because there's a separate tab that's municipal court that we have yet to get to.
The difference between the joint municipal court is all 6 communities. The municipal court in the general fund is any cost that the city incurs that have nothing to do with the joint municipal court. In other words, for an example, what's in the little one that we missed is that if the city has to bring in people to testify at one of its cases, it's a city's cost, not the joint municipal court costs. Each town, city, and village is responsible for their defense in court cases within the joint municipal court.
But Steve, your point is well taken that we're talking about the
Yeah.
joint municipal
No,
court.
no big deal. It's just a misspeak, that's all. Yeah.
All right, any other discussion on Alaska joint municipal court? All right. My next tab is capital projects.
So Fred?
The only thing I want to mention here, Mr. Chair, and for the rest of the committee, is don't get this mixed in with what we're talking about at capital projects at the Board of Public Works, two entirely separate issues. All this represents is the funds that currently exist or may be existing within the capital projects and how they will be utilized or anticipated to be utilized through the duration of 2021.
But Fred, as a follow-up for the year 1998 and the year 2008, the 46,039, that's the original, that's the remaining city hall dollars from when City Hall was first built in 1998. And that we've continued to spend that balance down through the years when we have found it appropriate to use for City Hall repairs.
That is correct. And then in the 2008, there has been some discussion of utilizing some of those dollars, that those are earmarked for the library.
For the
Now,
library.
Keep in mind how these capital projects work, and those two are easy.
Mhm.
If the dollars that are left in these two cases had to be used for either the principal and interest payment on that debt or a like item within that bond issue. And that money was restricted in 2008 by the Common Council and finance personnel to be used for improvements within the library itself,
Yes. Thank you.
which needs a roof.
Which what?
Needs a roof.
Yes, needs a roof.
All right. Any other discussion, or should we move on to CDA?
We're good.
We will move on to CDA.
And I think we're all good here.
And then we'll move on to the tax increment district number 5.
I have debt service.
Debt service.
Yeah,
most
debt
of those
services.
Is the last one.
Oh, okay, well, mine's
Right,
not. Okay.
yeah, okay.
We'll go to, so TIF
five.
5, okay. Fred, could you explain the reasoning why you have a squiggly line in the middle of the page?
It's a highlight on Alaska.
Oh, just to highlight, okay, I didn't know if there was something, okay, I just want to make sure there was, okay. Thank you,
Along with the check mark.
right, okay.
Because we're on a river.
A river, great river.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. Debt service.
The only comment that I would, Mr. Chair, make a comment. We briefly had conversation about this at the Board of Public Works. You'll see the bar graph is very, how should I say, for the next 4 years is very straight across. So that's why we cannot increase. I mean, we're asking for issues if we go above the 3.6 million to borrow.
Alder Stevens?
Yes.
Just to reiterate, for those that are looking at the chart, you'll see basically it's the flattest part is not the current year, but the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Those numbers are usually going to be higher because of the nature of the kind of debt that we have to acquire. Any vehicle or equipment or asset that has a 20-year lifespan, we can borrow obviously over 20 years. But if vehicles like police vehicles or other equipment that we can't, it's usually going to the state trust fund loans at 5 years. I think what's significant about this chart, it shows that we've historically been doing things that are 5,000 or under, or 5 years of lifespan or under, that we're frequently borrowing from the state trust fund loan, and that's beginning to catch up. And that's to Fred's point about why we need to keep our borrowing this year, particularly our long-term borrowing. But most importantly, I think we have to look at as we go forward, keeping what we borrow for on the short-term basis limited in this particular year. So assets that don't have a long lifespan, we should probably look out at pushing out a few years. But I'll reiterate that again when we go to Board of Public Works.
Sure, but and just discussing the graph, I mean, for the 2020 through 2025, as Fred stated, it's fairly flat, and a lot of that is because of the short-term borrowing. But some of those short-term, I'm assuming there's going to be more short-term borrowing in the future. So as we were to go through the next 5 years, we'll probably have new short-term borrowing. And we would expect that the graph going forward would remain, it would look a lot like what it looks now. It's 5 years down the road, right? I mean, or are we anticipating that the short-term borrowing is higher now and we don't anticipate that we're going to have that in the future?
I think as we review, because we know in the capital improvements, we need to reduce some yet. I would suggest that as we look at it going into the capital improvements program for next Board of Public Works, is look at if we're going to need to cut things that have the shorter life cycle. Because, well, that gap usually between the short-term and the long-term debt is there, and I've seen that frequently. The length of the flatness that we have is unusual, and that's what Fred is saying, is that, when we borrow long-term, we obviously have the asset that'll be around long enough that we can pay it off over time. But it's the short-term borrowing right now that's catching up to us.
All right. All right. Well, I am at the end of my book here. Are there
Municipal court, just that little
sections? Stephen, were you keeping a list?
Yeah, it's just one. It's at the very beginning, I think, of most of our books, and that's just the municipal court tab. It's for a very small amount. And I think that's it.
It's next to the police and fire.
51,200.
Yeah, it's next to police and fire and should be 100-51200-290 and 240, totaling $312.
What is it? What's the tab
It's
again?
next to the municipal court up in the front.
At the front.
Municipal court is the one we're doing.
Yeah.
It's right next to the police and fire commission.
In my, it's right behind Police and Fire Commission and directly ahead of legal.
Yep, city attorney.
City attorney, just before city attorney.
So I
Just a
go
single sheet of paper. That's why it's
go
easy to
police and
overlook.
Fire, and then I go city attorney. Okay. Mhm.
Oh,
Just one page.
And I'm sorry, what's the tab again?
Municipal Court GF is how it's labeled on my tab.
Black, it's
Apartment
smaller than the
51200.
rest of them.
Where is it?
so not a large budget at $312.
Yeah,
Do you wish to weigh in on this?
it's a budget breaker. Yeah.
Oh, I don't have a tab, that's why.
Yeah, I didn't have a tab either. That's why I missed it.
Oh, it was with police and fire. Okay, there we go.
Budget cut.
Yeah.
Save money on the tab.
It's a lean year.
So there is a description on that one of outside attorney due to conflict of interest. So that'd be like, that's like something local you wanted to go to another county or kind of thing, or what would be that for, what would be that for $100?
Well, what you really see there is it's, if our attorney, for example, has a conflict with one of the individuals coming to court.
Okay.
Does that get utilized ever, or does that,
Well,
we just have to budget for it in case it pops up?
yeah, you have to budget for it just in case it pops up. It looks like in 2020, we spent $50 of it already.
Oh,
On very rare occasion, yeah.
what was that, Amanda?
On occasion, yeah. I mean, if somebody that's related to me or any municipal prosecutor or a past client of mine, for instance, would end up in municipal court, I may have to find somebody to be the municipal prosecutor for that case.
Right, well, that was interesting.
Okay, I just never heard of that, so I was curious. Thank you.
Another reason this dollars are being used, if the city has a case in which you have to bring in a translator or
Oh, okay.
language interpreter.
Sure.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
Well,
you.
are we good with municipal court general fund expenses? With a 312.
Yep, I guess
Is
so.
there another section that we glossed over? Need to revisit?
I'd like us to look at revenues. It's at the front, because there are some tabs in the very front that we have not looked at that we may have questions about, but one is revenues.
Got it.
Did you want to walk them through those first tabs that we skipped?
No, I like to do the revenues. That's right next to the expenses that we just, and we're working our way closer to the front.
Yeah. I'd rather talk about money coming in before we talk about money going out. I brought this up to Fred. Let me see here. I just have to find it. Let's see. So on the revenue tab, it would be page 2 of 7. And it is the 5th line down. It is the account or fund 100-00000-44110 liquor and malt beverage license. And there is nothing listed for any revenue. And Fred thought that we should put $22,000 back in there.
Or it's up to you, obviously, but as you may or may not recall, let's take a look at what you see there. As we budgeted in 2020, we budgeted 22,800. And when COVID set in, the council went on record to lower the costs, and so we only collected $8,220 of the 22,000. So I just want to mention that, so if
I think that was a temporary.
you did it because of the fact that the bars were closed,
Exactly.
which
yeah.
is kind of sort of happening at this point in time as well, that they may be open, but at function.
But we're planning a budget based on
Yep.
normality, and we can again entertain those things as they, or if they come in the future. I don't think we want to prognosticate on what may or may not happen.
Mhm.
So,
Agree.
So,
But you make a good point. That's pretty close to what you're looking for, crossing guards.
Yep,
yes.
yeah.
So if we can find one. So, I mean, I just wanted to note that. So do we put that back in? Do we put that on the site?
I'll make a motion that we put that back in.
22,800.
Well, or we could refine or have a modified fee rather than just waive the fee. I'll make a motion for the 22,800. And we can bring it up to discussion. I'm open to modifying the fee somewhat due to COVID, but I don't think that we should zero it out.
Are you saying the word fee?
Well, it's it's a license.
License fee, you know.
Well, this is revenue.
Yeah, fee for. the-
It's revenue to us.
Revenue.
It's a fee to
Okay.
the taverns and
Okay.
liquor purveyors.
So your motion is for 22,800?
I'll make the motion. I'm amenable to altering that.
My question was, your motion was for 22,800?
It was.
I will second that.
Okay, there's a motion by me, seconded by Alder Wolf to increase the revenues on item 44110 by 22,800. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Alder Knott?
Yeah, so I was one of the folks who was kind of vocal in getting them some relief through all the closures of COVID, but I always felt that that was intended as a temporary relief, not a permanent one. So, you know, I don't get a vote on this in this body anyway, but I would think 22,800 is probably appropriate. We need to go back to normalcy. And again, if we end up finding out that things are going to go back down south in the future, we can always address it then, but we shouldn't be planning on that. That's just my view.
Alder Smith?
I support that too. I really do think we should plan on it accordingly, you know, as if business back to normal.
And I agree also.
Yeah, I would look at this like if we're going to operate with the assumption that we're going to open the pool, then we should also operate like
Exactly.
everything else is going to be normal.
Fred?
Yeah, just for the committee, this was an accidental error on my part. It was something I just totally overlooked until speaking to Diane Wolf, and it stuck out like a sore thumb, but it didn't at the time.
Just extra set of eyes, it always helps, so, yeah.
All right, so all those in favor of the motion as stated, please, any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, let's vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Just found $22,800. So do we want to go back and talk about crossing guards?
Well, so is there anything else in revenue? I don't have anything else if no one else does. Then we also have expense summary is the next sheet.
Well, that's all been done through going through each tab.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay.
However, if I could.
Alder Knott?
So,
Well,
yeah,
Jack, go ahead.
we have gone through them all, but just as a reminder, based on motions that you already voted on and passed, your expenses were reduced by a total of $3,224. The 3149 referenced the furniture for the emergency management, and then the $75, got the line number, the 55110-491. I don't remember what that was.
Oh, the contractual for transcription.
Yes. So on that, unless you got the calculator in my head, it was
26,000.
3,224.
26,034.
I'm sorry, what?
26,034. We had 3234, which was 3,159 plus 75. What's it at? 3234 plus 22.8.
Yes. Okay. I'm tracking. Yeah. So you've got more than 22.8 is what I'm getting at. You're at basically 26. Yeah. So we go back to police. All right. And yeah, so it's police and it is on the page 2. of the-
2,917. You're talking for the crossing guards?
Yes. Yeah, so you've got 26K that is suddenly, it's probably not the proper term, but budgetable. So,
Well, So I think that's having some valid conversation about what this looks like. What's the city's role going forward long-term is a discussion that we ought to have. And this is the budget for both the spring semester and then the subsequent fall semester. If we're going to make some changes, and Tom, you're the liaison to the school board. I mean, could we make a commitment to try to fund the crossing guards through the spring semester, or are we? If we look at this going forward and we fund the full year, then they're going to have the same issue where they're going to have half a school year with crossing guards and half without. So when's time to cut bait? I guess is I'm very sympathetic to what happens in January and through the end of the school year. But I think we should have a discussion on the rest of that. So I'm not sure if we need a budget of 18,917, or if we could do roughly half of that amount to cover the first half of the school year.
Yeah, my thought would be, and again, we haven't talked school district, but I think we do have to give them that we are phasing out of this. Because I think it gives the school district some time to do their, what do you call that? Where they do cross the districts and get their approval, because I think it'll happen. I really do think that they're, and I think the school district will support that. But I would think that if as a goodwill gesture, if we could at least budget for the first semester, for this next semester, and then say this is, the funds that we can go up to, and then hopefully give them, 2 or 3 months, 4 months there to get their pieces together and get a solution themselves in the budget. That would be my thought, but I can't commit to that. But you know what I mean? I think we should fund for some of it, at least short term, until they can have time to get a solution in place if they wish to do that.
Tom, when you say,
The second option we might look at is, could we just reduce the number of crossing guards? Like where is there more of a priority? And if we have less crossing guard stations, I would think that would be easier to fill the crossing guard positions. Do we have a preference over doing it just, adding the next semester, or changing what it looks like going forward with just a reduced number of crossing guards? And I don't know, Chief Ashbeck, if you're there, would you have a recommendation?
well, Dan, if I could just interject real quick, I just want to follow up with Tom Smith real quick. So Tom, when you suggest the possibility for the next semester, are you talking like through May?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or just kind of get,
The first part of the year, because it's already almost here.
and
Give them time to get something in place if they choose to do
right,
that.
and that's
then-
something that I could certainly possibly get behind. My only concern is, I think we still haven't resolved the issue of just getting people.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
agree.
we can fund it, but we can't make people
Mhm.
come out of the woodwork.
Mhm.
So
Right,
That's why
well, that's-
I think
that's my
I think
concern.
that's why I'm saying our commitment, but we
Right.
would fund it until we get a solution and let the school district then, if they can get their approvals, they would then fund it and they would be able to have to find their own people.
I guess my next question though would be, I mean, I know I don't know the other school districts, but I know Onalaska School District, they meet the second and fourth Monday of every month. How much time would it take for people it's just like municipality or municipal government, we meet every month and we have
Mhm.
meetings and such, and if we had to get something together, we could have some agreements within abutting municipalities within
Yeah.
30 to 60 days, so.
That's what I think. I think
It
we have
takes
we have
6
talked.
months for
It
them,
shouldn't.
so.
No, it shouldn't really. Actually, it depends on the urgency that they feel it. It's really their call, not ours.
Right.
But I think we're saying it's not going to be in our budget long term, and but we help you get there.
And I think maybe a happy medium could be that we go through the next school year, knowing that part of it may be that they may be virtual, who knows how long, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I'm still concerned about our police department trying to
Yeah.
find people,
Yeah.
and,
Well, and I think we also ask the school district which areas are most important to them.
well, and I
They
know,
have to prioritize which ones they are.
well, I know
first.
Chief Ashbeck, he
Northern
weighed in,
Hills.
and I'm sure he's still here, but I know He has put money into Sand Lake and Quincy because he made the
Yep.
point that it is the farthest away from all the schools. And if Jared's still on the line, I know we were talking about, but this won't happen until the spring. I believe it's in capital improvements budget for what, $10,000? We have two of them, and wasn't the one going to be at Quincy and OMS? Is that the one that we put in for? If it makes it. And I know right now it is in there. I mean, it's 10,000. But that won't go in until spring, so that doesn't really resolve. I mean, it'll resolve it going forward for the fall. So then we would be left with Main and Sand Lake, East Avenue and Troy, and Main at Perch. Those three.
Dan, could I
So-
be recognized?
If, after Diane's done, yes.
Oh, yes, please, Mayor.
Okay, Madam Mayor?
Thank you. I think to me, one of the concerns with this is it's not only about funding the crossing guards, it's managing the crossing guards. I think right now it's taking a lot of time on behalf of the police department to not only find and hire these, but to schedule them, to fill in if they have to be gone, and then taking the police department's time. So I'm wondering if we could fund it at least for the remainder of this year, but work with the school district to have them take over the management of the program. And I think that would help out. I mean, Chief Ashbeck could maybe speak in more detail, but with their department kind of getting reorganized a little bit, I think it would help their burden as well. But I'd like to have Chief Ashbeck weigh in on that.
Chief,
you,
are you
Mayor.
available?
Yes, thank you. And that's exactly right, Mayor. I was going to bring that point up is that's the other piece of this is managing the program. That does take away time and resources from existing staff to, take over that duty since losing one position in our department. So that is certainly a big concern on our part. But I do agree with the rest of the committee's discussion. If we could find some funding to give the school district some time like that, I think that would be very appropriate.
Do we think that extra semester will be enough?
I feel that would be
I think so.
plenty of time
I just,
for them to go around to the other jurisdictions. I would think so.
And if I may, Dan, I think, if I may be so blunt, I think it's going to have to be.
We wouldn't expect anything other. But go ahead.
yeah, we just tell them this is our direction and, you have to.
Right. I mean, I think it's a fair compromise. And thank you, Mayor Kim and Chief Ashbeck for weighing in. I think if we were to fund these but just because we fund them, that doesn't mean we're going to come up with bodies. But if we could fund them and find people through May of 2021, and the school, and if we go forward with this and the school district would, once we get through the public hearing in November and this goes forward, if it's finalized, then the school district would be told, this is the plan. And
Nice
then
give
they
us some-
have from here till May to get a plan in place for the fall. And I think that would be more than fair. I think we've done our due diligence. I think we've done everything that we could, and I think we've been fair.
Hey, Chief, didn't you say something though that they have to be city employees until that transition happens?
Correct. If they're paid, it has to be through the city unless those resolutions get passed and adopted by the school board. Otherwise, certainly the parent volunteers can just as easily do the job, just not get paid.
Okay.
Fred?
So Fred, if we wanted to do half the school year, which would be January through, I don't know, sometime in June or late May, what would that budget, would we just half the budget or?
No, what I did is while you guys were talking is you got to keep in mind, the fall is 4 months, the spring is 5 months.
Okay,
And so if you were to transfer $12,034 back into this account of that 22,800. So in other words, what I'm saying is 12,000, I'm sorry, disregard what I was saying, $12,034 to reinstate the crossing guards for the first half, the first part of the fiscal for the school district or for the city's coverage.
All right, well, I will make that as a motion that we reinstate $12,034. What's the GL? Somebody want to help me out here? What's the GL for the crossing guards?
Back into the crossing guard account.
Okay, well, we'll just keep it like that.
Right, I mean, that, yeah. And that, I'll second that, and I reserve my time.
That's under
Okay, go ahead,
wages.
Diane.
And so Fred, so under discussion, Fred, could you give us the count?
It's wages, temporary seasonal, and so it's 100-521-00-126.
That's the money going towards.
That's where this money will be reinstated.
Okay, so under discussion, just to make sure that we clarify for transcription purposes, the $12,034 we're putting back into account 100-521-00126 to reinstate those dollars and positions for crossing guards. And to further clarify, that is for the, through the first
Remainder of the school year.
remainder of the school year, 2020 through 2021, like through May, early June, or whatever it is.
Now, there's already 5738 in there, so,
Yes,
so do we need to specify what the,
No, the motion to add it, I think, is sufficient.
No,
okay,
we're good.
Oh,
And
it's calculating.
17,772. All right, is there any discussion on this?
so just to reiterate, so that's going to be starting for January 1st through the first half of the school year. But there still will not be a crossing guard at Main Street and Sand Lake Road this fall. I just want to make sure people are aware of that. But I do think this would be a good compromise, and I think this will give our police department some relief from that. They know that in the very near future, they hopefully will be relieved of this, and I think this is a very fair compromise.
I agree. Yeah.
So, and I'm hopeful that the school district will feel that way also.
I think they will, because
I do.
even when I talked to them, they said, even if we had time to get our agreements across the school districts, but they were just concerned that it would start so soon. It would, with the holidays and stuff, they just couldn't get it that fast, but
And
that
I
gives them
think-
plenty of time to get it
It
done.
will have, there's a plan in place, and this will be okay. My only concern is will
Well, and sooner the better. If they can do it sooner, then we'll have extra money left over.
It's not going to happen sooner, but.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's
did.
vote on this unless there's another discussion. All those in favor of the motion as stated, please say aye.
Aye.
I,
All right, unanimously passes.
so if I may ask Fred, how much money do we have left of those
14,000.
14,000 even, or approximately, or
No, exactly.
14,000 approximately? Fred, could you tell me the city wages? Because I'm not going to find the tab. What is that, where we had the 75,000?
That was under urban and economic. Account number 100-56610-295 called city study.
Did you say 100, 566?
It's under urban and economic, urban city and economic.
But I don't think that's my tab though, is it?
Yeah. There's two Tyler sheets in there. The first one's called economic
Oh,
development.
I found it, urban planning, okay. Thank you.
And the second sheet is called city study.
Maybe if the tabs were colored, because I know you like colored paper, so you could say, it's the orange tab.
Then we're gonna have to add it to the budget.
So I would like to make a motion that the remaining dollars, the $14,000, that we move that 14,000 available dollars still into the account 100-56610-295 for the city study.
For what, Diane?
For the city study for wages, to make
Okay.
sure that we have enough available dollars for any funding of adjustments we need to make once the city study comes in.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, motion by, that was Jim.
yes.
All right. Any further discussion on that? I guess I'm okay with the fund study. I'm wondering if we should, there's a way to have kind of a reserve, or I think with some of the staffing changes that we've had, that there could be some eventualities that we're not aware of yet next year that we might have to budget for. I mean, it could be more mowing or streets or, water, or we might need some part-time help, clerical help, especially around an election with COVID. So I'm not against funding that 14,000 to that fund because I know that it needs it, but I like to build in a degree of flexibility if that's an option for us.
Alder Stevens?
Who was that?
Eric would like to be
That
recognized.
was Eric. Go ahead.
One challenge municipalities face is by statute, you cannot levy a tax that doesn't have a purpose for it. And so levying a tax strictly for creating a potentially unused pot of money is something that we really need to avoid. So if you're looking at putting money aside, you need to actually budget for a purpose somewhere within the budget, which is part of the difficulty of creating rainy day funds in general.
And that's exactly really what it would be. So, all right, well, Alder Knott or Tom, do you have any thoughts?
No.
Nope.
Nope.
No.
All right, so all those in favor of the motion to put that into the funding for the study, I think it was Diane?
Yeah, for the city wage, for the city study / wages.
Or
Yes.
city study / wages.
Yes.
Motion by Diane, second by Jim Olson. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, well, that passes. All right. Have we missed anything?
Have we missed any?
If going once, going twice, or do we move on to item 5, adjournment?
Just hold on.
Oh, Mr. Chair, there's a couple things.
Oh, yeah, hold on. So Fred?
Well, before we can talk about this one first, and then we can come back, is the practice has been, once we're all done, is that you accept this budget with these modifications and move it on to council. And then what will happen at the council, I will have all of these motions laid out. And so after the public hearing, then we will have a discussion in reference to you want to accept, does the entire council want to accept the motions coming out of finance personnel? If they say that, then they do, then it goes back to the general public to weigh in, and then we continue to move forward. But we should, before we leave tonight, accept this budget if there's no other changes. But I think Diane, she's coming is, I think she's just got a few more things she just briefly wants to talk about.
Yes, thank you, Fred. So if I could turn to Eric, and if you could touch briefly on the whole kind of a budget 101, the budget constraints, the levy limit, kind of give us your elevator speech, kind of dumb down.
I'll keep it short. I'll leave the specifics to Fred if you are requesting the actual dollar amounts. In short, we have two main caps on our budgets here in the state of Wisconsin on municipalities. On the revenue side of the ledger, it is the levy limit, meaning that the amount that we can levy against the property tax it has a certain cap. It can only grow by a certain amount every year. And that amount is mostly dictated by what's called the net new construction. So the growth of your community, the new buildings in your community is really what drives the ability to raise new revenue off the property tax. Barring any growth, your levy is capped from where you are. It's not the only source of revenue that we get. We get state aids, which for highway, shared revenue. And then we also have other revenues we talked about for licenses and fees and so on that we also collect. But the impact, if you levy more than what is allowed, it's a dollar for dollar reduction in the state aids. So effectively, your revenues are capped that way. And if you exceeded that levy limit, you would lose state aids. Effectively, you still have the same dollar amounts collected. You're just putting more on the backs of the property tax owner in your community. The other side of the ledger is your expenses, and the cap there is the expenditure restraint program. And what that means is your expenses that are tied to your tax levy, so it's not just your general fund, but it's any fund that uses tax levy dollars, is also capped. And again, sort of the driving factor of that is likewise the growth factor through net new construction and through CPI. And the penalty there is if you expend more than you're allowed, you lose the next year a expenditure restraint payment. If you recall, last year budget, the council foregoed, past tense of forego, that expenditure restraint payment for 2021 in order to be able to hire the 3 police officers and 3 firefighters during the year. So in 2021, we will not be collecting, the estimates were $71,000 in 2021, but we will qualify with this budget as proposed again for that revenue in 2022. So the double impact is then not only do we meet and get that, but then that it also potentially reduces our pressure on the levy limit because while it's an expense, it comes back in as revenue down the road as a reward from the state as an additional state aids. So again, this budget though meets both our levy limit and the expenditure restraints calculations.
And the only thing I'd like to add to that is if you take a look in your book, Cap 2 is probably the most critical one, or it is the critical one in 2021 budget, unlike Cap 1. You'll see some okays from Fred. The only filler figure that I put in there is line 9.
Okay, so Fred, hold on. So let's make sure that we're all in the same. So what tab are you under?
Well, no, it's not a tab. It's up in the front. It's called tab.
Oh, the yellow.
Tab
front of the book.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Called
thank you.
tab number 2.
Got it.
Okay. The only answer that I'm putting in here is line 9. Line 9 consists of the principal and interest payment that the general obligation is responsible for. I can tell you, I have $3,516,000 here. The principal and interest payment owed on the debt is $3,516,190. So I'm telling you, you are pushed right up at the cap, but you're under the cap to qualify. I can tell you that's right up there. And that is what this budget shows, unlike any other budget in the past, where you're usually looking at 2 caps, Cap 1 and Cap 2, trying to not lose your money for the shared expenditure restraint dollars and yet stay under the cap. Well, because of COVID and all these things that fell apart in the revenue side, things got turned and twisted a little bit. But you cannot go over that cap.
Yes.
Close as you're gonna get.
Yeah.
No rounding errors, right?
Yeah.
No.
No rounding.
And that's pretty much like, those are the most critical sheets that I was glad we went through because that really drives the entire budget.
All right, well, thank you, Fred. Any other commentary on the whole budget here, or should we have a motion to accept this budget?
I move that we accept the 2021 proposed budget as discussed this evening and move it on to the council budget hearing on November, look at my calendar,
9.
on to Monday, November 9th, 6 PM. For the public hearing.
Second.
Excuse me, motion by Diane, seconded by Jim to accept the budget and move it on to the meeting on November 9th, 6 PM. Any discussion?
So quick discussion, since we have finished everything this evening, we can go ahead and cancel, staff can cancel the agended item or the agended meeting for tomorrow night. And secondly, I just want to go ahead and thank all staff, department heads, our city administrator, Eric, for all their hard work. This is a 665-page budget book that we've received. There was an awful lot of work that went into this, and I just want to sincerely thank each and every one of you for all the hard work that y'all put forth. So you make our budget night go a lot easier with the tremendous amount of work that went into this. And I want to also personally thank all the department heads that I called the last couple of days. And thank you again for your time in answering all the questions that I had, so that I did not have to come before this evening and ask all my many questions. So thank you.
All right, that does bring up a good point. Do we need to do anything official to cancel tomorrow night's meeting?
It'll be taken care of.
Okay,
And I'm sure staff tonight will be happy to know that they don't have to go through this again tomorrow night. So there will be no question.
well, yeah, I think it was smart to build that into the system if we needed it, so.
Yep.
But I think by and large, the budget was put together very well. So it only required maybe a little minor tweaks, and now we're off to the races. So shall we vote on this budget?
Yes.
Right, all those in favor of accepting the budget as with modifications and passing it on to the full council. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? I didn't hear Diane, so,
I said aye.
okay.
Sorry. Yes.
So I guess we're all,
I can't breathe.
so the motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, item
Second.
5, adjournment. Motion by Alder Wolf, seconded by Jim.
Me.
Jim, okay. When I point to you.
Yeah,
like,
thank
yeah,
you.
All those in favor of adjournment, please say aye.
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 Aye. We stand adjourned. The time is 8:43 PM. Thank you, everybody, and have a